want to go. I just want to go.
Last night started as one of Washington's most prestigious annual traditions. Black tie, the president, the vice president, the first lady, hundreds of journalists, politicians, celebrities, and public figures gathered inside the Washington Hilton Ballroom for the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Cameras rolling, music playing, the kind of evening that runs like clockwork every single year. And then shots rang out. President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, First Lady Melania Trump, and other top officials were evacuated from the head table in the ballroom of the Washington Hilton after apparent gunshots were heard at the venue Saturday night. Deadline. In the chaos that followed, in the backstage corridors, in the holding areas, in the terrifying minutes when nobody knew what was happening, one moment cut through everything else. Erika Kirk was seen running through the backstage area in tears saying, "I just want to go home," according to a Pool report. She was escorted out of the building through a rear exit as guests were being held and security assessed the situation. Deadline 5 words. "I just want to go home," from a woman whose husband was shot and killed 7 months ago at a public event. From a woman who has spent every week since then being told her security concerns are exaggerated. From a woman who just lived through another shooting at an event with the President of the United States and whose first instinct was not a statement or a post, but 5 words that tell you everything about what she is carrying. Welcome to the Marquee Report. This story just changed tonight. Let's get into every detail. Let's establish exactly what occurred at the Washington Hilton on the night of April 25th. Because this story is still developing and precision matters. Trump remained inside the White House Correspondents' Dinner venue and was taken to a secure holding area. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt was also moved out of the area during the scare. Deadline. The evacuation was immediate and coordinated. This is what Secret Service protocols look like in real time. The moment a potential threat is identified, every protectee gets moved simultaneously. No questions, no hesitation. Vance, as well as President Donald Trump and several members of the Trump administration, were safely evacuated from the White House Correspondents' Dinner after shots were fired. One officer was shot, but he was protected by a bulletproof vest. National Today: one officer shot, protected by his vest. That detail matters. It means the threat was real enough to wound someone. This was not a false alarm or a car backfiring outside. A law enforcement officer took a round last night at an event attended by the President and Vice President of the United States. Trump said the suspected shooter, identified as Cole Thomas Allen, 31 of Torrance, California, was armed with multiple weapons before being stopped by Secret Service. He was arrested and is facing multiple charges. The president shared photos of the arrest on Truth Social. National Today: multiple weapons, Cole Thomas Allen, 31 years old, from Torrance, California. Stopped before reaching the venue's interior, arrested, charges pending. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said Saturday night that charges are expected to be filed soon following the shooting outside the White House Correspondents' Dinner. "This investigation is ongoing," he said during the briefing at the White House. "I expect you will see charges filed shortly. The charges should be self-evident given the conduct, but there will be multiple charges surrounding the shooting, around the possession of firearms, and anything else that we can get on this guy." Deadline: multiple weapons, multiple charges, and a president who left the venue and delivered a statement from the White House briefing room before most of the guests had even been fully accounted for. Both the president and the vice president spoke after the incident, and their responses tell you something about the current political climate around events like this. House Speaker Mike Johnson, who was attending the event with his wife Kelly, said, "Kelly and I were at the event tonight, and we are thankful. No innocent people were harmed, and everyone is now safe. We are grateful, as always, for the law enforcement and first responders who acted so quickly to bring the situation under control. Praying for our country tonight." Deadline Representative Jared Moskowitz said he was at the event and was pulled into a secure room by Representative Steve Scalise, who himself was shot in the hip during a practice for the congressional baseball game in 2017. Deadline. That detail about Scalise is worth sitting with. A man who was shot at a congressional baseball practice, who knows exactly what gunfire at a public political event feels like, was the one pulling colleagues to safety last night. The institutional memory of political violence in that room was not abstract. It was personal and immediate for multiple people in that building. Trump addressed the nation from the White House briefing room. His statement was direct. The shooter was stopped. Nobody from the dinner was harmed. The investigation is ongoing. He posted photos of the arrest on Truth Social. The message from the administration was clear. The system worked. The Secret Service responded. The protectees were safe. But for one person in that building, the system working was not enough to stop the terror of the moment from landing with full force. Now, let's talk about the moment that stopped the internet. Fox News reported that Kirk was running in the backstage area of the event and wiping tears. "I just want to go home," Kirk said, according to video circulating on social media. The footage shows Kirk being safely escorted out of the hotel by security. National Today 5 words, spoken in a hallway, caught on video, and immediately understood by everyone who saw them, because the context is impossible to separate from the moment. Her late husband, Charlie Kirk, was murdered last year while touring for Turning Point USA on the Utah Valley University campus. Deadline, he was at a public event, speaking to a crowd, with security present, and he was shot and killed anyway. Last night, Erika Kirk was at a public event with the president and vice president, with the full weight of Secret Service protection surrounding the venue. And shots rang out anyway. The officer who was hit was protected by his vest. Nobody from inside the dinner was physically harmed. The shooter was stopped before he reached the ballroom. But for Erika Kirk, in the seconds and minutes before any of that was confirmed, what she experienced in that backstage corridor was the worst possible echo of the worst day of her life. The sound of gunfire at a public event, with powerful people she knows and cares about in the room. "I just want to go home." Those 5 words, spoken while running, while crying, while being escorted by security, are the most human and most heartbreaking thing to emerge from a night that was already extraordinary. Here's what the people who have spent the last 3 weeks mocking Erika Kirk's security concerns need to sit with tonight. 2 weeks ago, she could not get to Georgia. Her security team said the transit risk was too high. The Secret Service said there were no credible threats at the venue. Candace Owens said it was bad ticket sales. Empty seat videos went viral. The internet called her a liar. Last night, she was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner when shots were fired outside. She ran backstage in tears, saying she wanted to go home. She was escorted out through a rear exit while the president was being held in a secure area, and an officer was recovering from a gunshot wound he survived only because of body armor. Nobody is laughing at her security concerns tonight. The broader context of political violence in America right now, the assassination of her husband, the shooting at the Correspondents' Dinner, the documented threats against conservative public figures, is not a narrative Erika Kirk invented to avoid showing up to events. It is a documented, verified, ongoing reality that she lives inside every single day. Last night, that reality walked into the most formally protected event in the Washington social calendar and fired multiple weapons outside the venue where the President of the United States was having dinner. The people who called her security story from Georgia exaggerated need to reckon with what happened last night, not because Erika Kirk needs the validation, but because the pattern is real, and dismissing it has real consequences for real people. Let's be clear about what we know and what we do not know about Cole Thomas Allen, because in breaking news situations, precision matters enormously. Trump said the suspected shooter, identified as Cole Thomas Allen, 31 of Torrance, California, was armed with multiple weapons before being stopped by Secret Service. National Today, his motive is not yet publicly established. His specific target, if he had one, has not been confirmed. Whether this was an attack aimed at the president, at the event generally, or at a specific individual is part of an active and ongoing federal investigation. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche confirmed the investigation is ongoing and that multiple charges will be filed. The charges should be self-evident given the conduct, he said. Deadline. What is established is that he was armed with multiple weapons, that he was outside the Washington Hilton, that he fired those weapons, that a law enforcement officer was struck and survived because of body armor, that Secret Service stopped him before he could do more. Everything else, motive, target, any connection to political movements or ideologies, is under active investigation and should be treated as unconfirmed until federal authorities release that information. Here is where everything stands as of right now. The president, vice president, first lady, and all other protectees were safely evacuated from the Washington Hilton and are confirmed safe. One officer was shot and survived thanks to body armor. Cole Thomas Allen is in custody facing multiple charges. The investigation is ongoing. And backstage at the Washington Hilton last night, in a corridor, being escorted out through a rear exit, Erika Kirk was running and crying and saying 5 words that this country is going to be thinking about for a long time. I just want to go home. She has 2 children waiting for her. A husband she buried 7 months ago who was killed at a public event, exactly like the one she was just evacuated from. A job that requires her to show up at public events week after week in an environment where she has documented threats and a documented history of being told those threats are not real. Last night they were real. Everyone who was in that building last night deserves to be home safe with the people they love. And everyone who has spent any part of the last 3 weeks dismissing the security concerns of a widow and mother who lives inside a documented pattern of political violence, tonight is a moment to reflect on what that dismissal costs. This has been the Marquee Report. This is breaking news, and we will continue to update this story as new information becomes available. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss what comes next. Stay safe, everyone.